These four teams killed the 2025 NFL draft. Ryan, which team out of all of them had the best draft class?
It's such a surprise, Joe. I feel like I was picking between playoff teams, right? Because what do playoff teams typically do? They let good players fall to them, and they have good scouting staffs, and they find value ultimately. And Kansas City Chiefs was the first one that I wanted to highlight. First off, the maneuvering of trading back one spot from 31 to 32 and getting your future stud at left tackle in Josh Simmons out of Ohio State was masterfully done. I did not think that they would have the range to find a left tackle in that slot. Then they go and I think find value with Omar Norman-Lott, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee. Now he's a one-gap penetrating style player, but Joe, if he not for the injury concerns with him, he would not have been available at pick 63. I just don't think that there was any chance. Ashton Gelati, I think, is a fine third-round pick, but then you go down to Noel Williams, who I think is a very quality football player in the back of the top 100, the cornerback out of Cal. But then Jalen Royals, fourth round, Utah State. We've already done a video on him. I think this is one of the big values overall in this class, and I could see him being a instant impact player for Kansas City in year one. And I mean, throwing Jeff Bassa in the fifth round, a rangy dime linebacker who I think could do some stuff in special teams as well. This is a class from start to finish. They found value, and it's no shocker that they are consistently a great team and have a great scouting process of finding players.
They're the definition of a team that's just being patient. Yes. They understood and allowed for other teams to maybe overthink certain circumstances with players, Josh Simmons and Omar Norman-Lott with their injuries, Jalen Royals as well. All these guys that were banged up coming in, because their roster has already been pretty well-rounded, they were able to maybe take a flyer on a guy that there's a little bit of health uncertainty. Yep. My first team that I'm going to go with here is a team that they're competing with for the AFC Championship every single year, the Buffalo Bills. I think that the Bills realized, hey, we need to gear up on defense. We need to be prepared in the secondary to go up against the Chiefs and all of the fireworks in the AFC. We need to gear up on their defensive line. Taking Maxwell Hairston, the fastest corner in this class who flies downfield in the first, getting TJ Sanders, who is on the lighter side, but a very bursty, dynamic, rushing defensive tackle that could be a productive pass rusher for you. Deion Walker, who they got in the fourth round, was good value for where he was taken. Massive player, was reportedly dealing with back issues this year. And if you unlock his very light feet, he could be a mauling presence for you in the interior. I also am a big Landon Jackson fan, who I think could eventually take over and start over Joey Bosa for this team. He was another athletic freak who's super underrated, and I think it's just going to be a kick-ass run defender. And then the last two, in round 6, I love both of these selections. Dorian Strong could eventually become a starting corner for your team because he plays with such great instincts with the ball in the air, and he's a very underrated athlete. Chase Lunt falling as far as he did from UConn, the offensive tackle, is perplexing to me. He can move into guard. He's one of the smoothest moving linemen in this class, and I think eventually, maybe in a year or two, he could take over one of these jobs and allow for them to focus on spending money elsewhere instead of maybe bringing back one of their current starting linemen.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that one too, because we were talking beforehand about Chase Lunt, the offensive tackle out of UConn. If he wasn't dealing with the injury, I think that he would have gone probably 2 rounds higher, if not more. I mean, potentially. He's athletic, man. He's got a huge frame. Yes, he's a little bit of an outlier from an arm length perspective, but that athleticism and that lateral mobility easily make up for that. And I love the proposition of him working with Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, letting those guys tutor him and show him how to be a pro and play offensive tackle in the NFL level. I think that's massive. I want to go over, Joe, because again, we're talking about value, and who always finds value? Good football teams, like I said in the beginning. Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions. First and foremost, move up one spot to get your guy. The first time since 1979 NFL draft, they drafted a off-ball linebacker in the first round, got Jahad Campbell, who was their guy. But after that, I mean, it just felt like it was guy after guy that I loved in this class. Andrew Makuba, safety out of Texas, who was very improved from his time at Clemson. You got a Smile Munden in the in the 5th round. They got Smile Munden Jr., the rangy linebacker. He needs to get bigger out of the University of Georgia, but that kid has range for days. And if he is able to add good weight and improve as a processor a little bit, there's a lot of upside. And then I think it could have ended there. I would have been happy with it. Like, I understand the Kyle McCord pick to fight for the backup spot with Tanner McKee, but the two 6th-round picks that I want to highlight real quick that really capped off this class for me. You got Cameron Williams, the offensive tackle out of Texas. He had a lot of flashes early, then a steep regression, should have went back to school. But if he is able to turn into a good pro, Joe, you know who's going to do it? Jeff Stoutland, who is one of the best O-line coaches ever. I mean, he is maybe the best assistant coach in the NFL today and one of the best offensive line coaches ever. So him with Stoutland University, I think is going to be massive. And then Antoine Powell-Ryland, they're in the 6th round as a designated pass rusher. I mean, like, he's never going to be a guy against the run because he's too small. But if he's a guy on 3rd down you can get super creative with, I think the Philadelphia Eagles found value from pick 1 all the way down to the end of the 6th round.
The Cameron Williams pick is the one that intrigues me the most because he is one of the most fluid and athletic linemen in this class, but there were concerns about how focused he was. It kind of showed in his development that he didn't really improve very much at Texas.
Yep.
So you throw him into the mix to sit for a couple of years and to get coached up like they've done with so many guys. This is just how they've always operated and why their offensive line's been so good is that they're capturing the traits. They try to coach it up. If they can't coach it up, they move on. So there's a lot to come from there. And the Houston Texans, though, were my last team that I was in love with what they did during this draft class. They took Ariante Ursary in the 2nd round, first of all. That was the first pick that was important for them that could start at maybe right tackle for them. Maybe he goes to left tackle. He has one of the higher floors, in my opinion, of the offensive linemen in this class. And in order to improve your very messy offensive line, you needed to get high floor players. That was a big concern for us. And to still land Ursary, who could have maybe even gone in the end of the 1st round, is tremendous value. Their receiver room was good this past year. We know CJ Stroud is a fantastic budding star in the NFL. But outside of Nico Collins, there is inconsistent health availability, especially from Tank Dell. And I think that they realized that. They didn't want to mess around with that. And they also saw what was on the board for them with 2 players and said, you know what? We don't really necessarily need to take 2 receivers, but we're going to do it anyways. They brought in the 2 Iowa State guys, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. We had Knoll on this channel who talked about how he loves Jaden Higgins and how they're super close. So their chemistry continues to grow and their skill sets play off of one another. I think out of anybody on their receiver room, we know that there's so many traits, there's so much talent. I can totally see Jalen Knoll end up becoming the most productive out of any of them because his skill set is going to be freed up by attention going elsewhere. Last part about this, I love Woody Marks. I know that people were griping about trading up for him, but in round 4, taking Woody Marks to play alongside Joe Mixon, a player who's a very strong receiver, who is going to catch the ball out of the backfield, is just going to come and rotate in and come in on 3rd downs. He is exactly what you need in your second running back on a roster when you know you have that big body bruiser in Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I think it's said perfectly. You needed to put protection and support around CJ Stroud. He had a little bit of a slight second-year regression because there were a lot of injuries at receiver. You mentioned Tank Dell. Stephon Diggs got hurt and isn't returning to this team as well. And the offensive line was a little bit of a mess last year. Now, I still think the offensive line has a lot to prove, and there's a lot of moving parts. I'm not sure how good it will be overall. But what I do know is you have pass catchers galore. You have pass catchers everywhere, even counting some of the guys they brought in free agency this past year. And the running back room, Joe Mixon early downs. Then you get a Woody Marks who had the most receptions of any running back on the FBS level ever. That support is going to be huge for CJ Stroud in his year 3 development.
Folks, comment below which draft class you thought was the best. Hit the like button and subscribe. We'll talk to you later.